Imagine an entire Apache tribe trapped in the scorching desert, their water gone, their children growing weaker with every step, and hope fading beneath the blazing Arizona sun. Then, out of nowhere, a lone cowboy appears with a dangerous promise. "Follow me, I know where there's water." But the journey ahead could cost them all their lives. If you love emotional Wild West stories filled with courage, survival, adventure, and unforgettable frontier legends, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another incredible story. Now travel back to the Arizona Territory of 1882, where one cowboy's act of kindness changed history forever. And let's get started. In the scorching summer of 1882, the Arizona Territory suffered one of the harshest droughts anyone could remember. The blazing sun hung over the desert from dawn until dusk, turning rivers into cracked beds of dust and drying every stream that had once brought life to the rugged land. Ranchers watched helplessly as their cattle searched for water that no longer existed. Wild animals wandered dangerously close to settlements in desperate search of moisture. Even the mighty saguaro cacti seemed tired beneath the endless heat. The frontier had always been unforgiving, but this summer tested every living creature that called the American Southwest home. Nathan Carter, a 32-year-old cowboy, had spent nearly half his life riding across Arizona's deserts and mountain trails. Raised on a lonely cattle ranch, Nathan knew every canyon, river crossing, and hidden valley within hundreds of miles. His late father had often taken him on long journeys through the wilderness, teaching him how to survive, where most travelers would perish within days. "The desert rewards those who respect it," his father always said. Nathan never forgot those lessons. They had saved his life more than once during dangerous cattle drives across the harsh frontier. Early one July morning, Nathan saddled his faithful chestnut horse, Scout, before leaving his ranch. Several cattle had wandered south while searching for water, and Nathan hoped to gather them before the drought claimed them. He packed extra water skins, dried beef, coffee, rope, ammunition, and a small medical bag. Every journey across the desert required careful planning, because one mistake could prove fatal. The nearest town lay more than 40 miles away, and help rarely arrived when someone became stranded beneath the relentless Arizona sun. By midday, the heat became almost unbearable. Waves of shimmering air danced above the sand, while distant mountains appeared to float like ghosts upon the horizon. Scout slowed his pace, breathing heavily despite Nathan's careful efforts to conserve the horse's strength. After several hours of searching without finding the missing cattle, Nathan climbed a rocky ridge, hoping to spot signs of movement somewhere across the vast landscape. Instead, something entirely unexpected caught his attention. Far below, a long line of weary travelers slowly crossed the desert. Even from a distance, Nathan could see they were struggling. Curious and concerned, Nathan guided Scout carefully down the rocky hillside. As he approached, he realized the travelers belonged to an Apache tribe. Nearly 50 people moved together across the burning desert, including elderly men, women carrying infants, and exhausted children barely able to continue walking. Their horses staggered beneath the weight of supplies, while several pack animals had already collapsed beside the trail. Faces showed exhaustion rather than fear. Every step appeared heavier than the last. Nathan immediately recognized the signs of severe dehydration. These people were not traveling by choice. They were desperately searching for water before it became too late. At the front of the group walked an older Apache chief, whose weathered face reflected years of wisdom and hardship. Despite his own exhaustion, he refused to ride while many of his people walked. Instead, he quietly encouraged children too weak to continue and helped elderly members over rocky ground. Nathan admired the chief's determination. Immediately, although language separated them, leadership often required no translation. The chief noticed Nathan approaching and raised one hand, signaling his warriors to remain calm. Several young Apache warriors instinctively reached for their bows, watching the lone cowboy with understandable caution. Nathan slowly dismounted from Scout, keeping both hands visible to show peaceful intentions. He knew sudden movements could easily create misunderstanding. One younger warrior stepped forward, clearly suspicious of the stranger standing before them. The chief quietly spoke to him before approaching Nathan himself. The old leader knew only a little English learned through years of trading near frontier settlements. In slow, careful words, he explained that every stream they depended upon had dried during the terrible drought. Their tribe had traveled for days searching for water, but each destination had become another empty riverbed covered with cracked earth. Nathan quietly listened while studying the exhausted families around him. Children sat weakly beneath the tiny shadows cast by desert rocks. Mothers carefully shared the final drops from nearly empty water skins. Even the horses lowered their heads, too tired to graze. Nathan understood the danger better than anyone. Without fresh water, before another day passed, many of these people would not survive. He searched his memory for every hidden spring, creek, and canyon he had explored with his father. Most had certainly dried months earlier. Then one forgotten memory returned with surprising clarity. Years before, Nathan's father had shown him a secret spring hidden deep within a narrow canyon beyond the Black Mesa cliffs. The spring flowed from underground rather than seasonal rain, remaining untouched even during severe droughts. Few settlers knew of its existence because reaching it required navigating dangerous mountain trails almost impossible for strangers to find. Nathan had visited only twice in his entire life. Even now, he remembered the crystal-clear water flowing beneath cottonwood trees, while every surrounding valley remained dry. It might be the only place capable of saving the struggling Apache families before him. Nathan looked toward the chief and explained what he remembered. He told him about the hidden spring, though he warned the journey would not be easy. The safest trail required crossing steep cliffs, narrow canyons, and rough desert passes where wagons could never travel. Worse still, rumors suggested a gang of outlaws had recently begun hiding near the easiest route through the mountains, robbing anyone desperate enough to pass. The chief listened carefully without interrupting. His tired eyes reflected both hope and concern. He understood trusting a stranger carried great risk, yet refusing help might condemn his people to certain death. The younger Apache warriors exchanged doubtful glances. One quietly argued that following a lone cowboy into unfamiliar mountains could easily become a trap. Others agreed. They had witnessed too many broken promises from strangers across the frontier. Nathan did not blame them for their suspicion. Instead of defending himself with angry words, he calmly removed one of his own water skins and handed it to the nearest exhausted child. The boy drank gratefully, while Nathan simply smiled. That single act spoke more loudly than any promise ever could. The chief watched silently, recognizing genuine compassion rather than hidden motives. After a long moment, the chief stepped forward and introduced himself as Chief Taza. Placing one weathered hand upon his chest, he thanked Nathan for showing kindness without expecting payment. Though uncertainty remained, he believed a man willing to give away his own precious water during such desperate times was unlikely to betray those already suffering. Turning toward his people, Chief Taza announced they would follow the cowboy. Some warriors remained cautious, but none questioned the chief's decision. Hope slowly replaced despair as families gathered their remaining belongings and prepared once more for the difficult journey ahead. Nathan climbed back into Scout's saddle before carefully leading the tribe westward toward the distant mountains. He deliberately chose winding paths across rocky hills instead of obvious trails where outlaws often waited for easy victims. The pace remained slow because many children and elderly members struggled beneath the relentless heat. Several times, Nathan stopped to help repair broken pack saddles or lift exhausted youngsters onto stronger horses. Though they came from different worlds, small acts of cooperation gradually replaced suspicion. Warriors helped stranded livestock while ranching skills and Apache wilderness knowledge blended naturally throughout the difficult march. As the blazing sun slowly dipped toward the western horizon, long shadows stretched across the desert floor. Far ahead, the dark outline of Black Mesa finally rose above the shimmering landscape. Nathan quietly studied the distant cliffs, knowing the hidden spring lay somewhere beyond them. Yet reaching it would require crossing the most dangerous section of their journey after sunrise. Unknown to the weary travelers, another threat already watched from the surrounding hills, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Nathan tightened his grip upon Scout's reins, silently preparing himself for whatever challenges awaited before the precious waters of the secret spring could finally be reached. Nathan led the exhausted Apache families through the cool darkness before sunrise, knowing the dangerous desert heat would return within hours. The towering cliffs of Black Mesa rose ahead like silent guardians, their shadows offering brief relief from the relentless sun. Though everyone was tired, no one complained. The children walked quietly beside their parents while the older warriors helped those too weak to continue alone. Scout, Nathan's faithful horse, carefully picked his way along the narrow trail. Nathan studied every canyon and ridge with experienced eyes. He knew reaching the hidden spring required crossing the most dangerous part of the mountains before the blazing afternoon arrived. As daylight spread across the desert, Nathan stopped beside a rocky overlook and motioned for everyone to remain silent. Kneeling near the trail, he examined fresh hoofprints pressed deeply into the sand. They belonged to several horses, and they were no more than a few hours old. Broken branches and the remains of a campfire confirmed his fear. A gang of outlaws had recently traveled through the canyon. Nathan quietly explained the danger to Chief Taza. The old chief nodded calmly before ordering his warriors to protect the children and elders while remaining alert. Everyone understood the journey had suddenly become far more dangerous than thirst alone. Nathan knew the shortest path to the spring passed directly through a narrow canyon where the outlaws were most likely waiting. Choosing that route could lead the entire tribe into an ambush. Instead, he remembered an older mountain trail his father had shown him years before. It climbed steep cliffs before descending into the valley beyond Black Mesa. The route was far longer and far more difficult, but it offered a better chance of avoiding unnecessary bloodshed. Chief Taza trusted Nathan's judgment completely. Without hesitation, the Apache families followed the cowboy toward the rugged mountain path, hidden among towering rocks and twisted desert pines. The climb tested everyone's strength. Loose stones slid beneath tired feet, while narrow ledges forced families to move one careful step at a time. Several pack horses struggled beneath heavy supplies, and more than once Nathan helped pull frightened animals across dangerous crossings. Young Apache warriors worked beside him without hesitation, steadying frightened children and lifting elderly tribal members over rocky ledges. The earlier distrust between cowboy and warriors slowly disappeared. They now shared the same purpose. Every person understood that reaching water mattered more than old suspicions. Together they climbed steadily toward the highest ridge overlooking the endless Arizona wilderness. By late morning, the group reached the summit overlooking several winding valleys. Nathan studied the landscape below before raising one hand. Far in the distance he spotted movement. Several riders wearing dark coats slowly searched the lower canyon. Even from miles away, Nathan recognized the careless formation used by outlaws searching for travelers. They clearly expected desperate people to use the easier trail leading toward the mountains. Nathan quietly smiled. Choosing the harder route had already saved dozens of innocent lives. Chief Taza looked across the valley and realized how close they had come to disaster. Respect for the cowboy grew even stronger among the watching warriors. The descent proved even more difficult than the climb. Sharp rocks cut through worn boots, while thorn bushes blocked parts of the forgotten trail. Several children stumbled from exhaustion, and their mothers struggled to carry them farther. Nathan noticed one little boy collapse beside the path after walking for hours beneath the rising heat. Without speaking, he lifted the child into Scouts, saddled and walked beside the horse himself. The simple act surprised many watching Apache families. Chief Taza quietly smiled. True character, he believed, revealed itself not during victory, but when someone willingly carried another person's burden without expecting recognition. As afternoon approached, the heat returned with frightening intensity. Waterskins had become almost completely empty. Lips cracked beneath the dry wind, and even Scout breathed heavily after the difficult climb. Nathan refused to show concern, but inside he knew time was running short. He carefully counted the remaining miles from memory. The hidden spring should lie somewhere beyond the next canyon. If his father's memory had failed, dozens of innocent lives would be lost because of his decision. Nathan whispered a silent prayer while continuing forward. He refused to surrender hope, believing the desert still held one final chance for everyone following him. The trail finally narrowed between two towering walls of red sandstone. Thick cottonwood trees unexpectedly appeared ahead, their green leaves standing in sharp contrast to the lifeless desert surrounding them. Nathan's heart filled with relief. Trees could not survive without water. He urged Scout forward, rounding one final bend. Suddenly, the sound everyone had prayed to hear echoed through the canyon. Flowing water rushed gently over smooth stones before collecting inside a crystal-clear pool fed by a natural spring hidden beneath the cliffs. For several moments, nobody moved. The unbelievable sight seemed almost too wonderful to believe after so many days of suffering. Children were the first to run toward the water, laughing with joy as they splashed their hands into the cool spring. Parents quickly followed, filling every empty waterskin while horses drank deeply beside the peaceful pool. Some elders knelt quietly, offering grateful prayers beneath the shade of ancient cottonwood trees. Chief Taza walked slowly toward Nathan before placing both hands upon the cowboy's shoulders, his tired eyes filled with gratitude that words could barely express. Without Nathan's courage and knowledge of the mountains, the tribe would never have survived another day beneath the merciless Arizona sun. Hope had returned where despair had almost claimed every life. That evening, as families rested safely beside the spring, Apache hunters brought fresh game while women prepared meals for everyone, including Nathan. Around the campfire, Chief Taza spoke proudly before the gathered tribe. Through careful English mixed with Apache words, he declared that Nathan Carter had become more than a helpful stranger. He had earned the friendship and respect of every family present. From a carefully wrapped bundle, the chief removed a beautifully carved wooden staff decorated with eagle feathers, turquoise stones, and hand-woven leather. It had belonged to one of the tribe's honored elders. Presenting it to Nathan, the chief declared it a symbol of trust that would always protect him among Apache people. Nathan accepted the treasured gift with deep humility. He insisted he had only done what any decent man should do when others were suffering. The Apache warriors smiled quietly, because they knew that was not true. Many people would have ridden away rather than risk their own safety for strangers from another culture. Nathan had chosen compassion over fear. For several peaceful days, he remained beside the spring helping repair saddles, care for weakened horses, and gather supplies before finally preparing to return home. When the time came to leave, every member of the tribe gathered to thank him. Even the smallest children waved until he disappeared beyond the canyon. Months later, autumn winds swept across the Arizona frontier. Nathan had nearly forgotten the hardships of the desert when disaster struck once again. A fierce wildfire ignited by lightning spread rapidly across the dry grasslands surrounding his ranch. Powerful winds pushed towering flames toward his barn, cattle, and family home. Neighboring ranchers fought bravely, but the fire grew stronger with every passing hour. Just when hope seemed lost, dozens of mounted Apache warriors suddenly appeared over the hills. Led by Chief Taza, they brought wet blankets, shovels, and determined hands. Together they dug fire breaks, drove frightened cattle to safety, and battled the flames until the ranch was finally saved. As the last smoke drifted into the evening sky, Nathan stood beside Chief Taza, watching the rescued cattle graze peacefully across the blackened fields. Neither man spoke for several moments. They understood that months earlier, a single act of kindness beside a dying desert trail had created something far greater than either had imagined. It had built lasting friendship between people once divided by fear and misunderstanding. In the years that followed, travelers across Arizona often told the remarkable story of the lone cowboy who led a thirsty Apache tribe to secret water, and the grateful tribe that later returned to save his home. The tale became one of the most cherished legends of the American frontier, reminding generations that compassion and courage could accomplish what hatred never could.